Welcome everybody to the inaugural episode of the Fourth and a Mile podcast. My name is Nicholas Elliott, alongside my co-host JD is also today. How you doing today, JD?
I'm doing great, man. How about you? It was a great week of college football, and I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, me too, man. It was a great weekend, great first weekend of week one. In today's episode, we'll be recapping week one and looking into next week's big matchups this coming weekend. And how would you like to start out today with the spotlight performers of this week?
I would like to start off in Boise, Idaho. Did you see their running back? Did you just watch? Did you watch this game?
All I saw, I kept seeing they had like 24 carries, they had like 6 touchdowns. Like, put him in the Heisman talks already.
I mean, this is insane. Ashton Genty, 6 touchdowns on 20 carries. I mean,
It's every 6 carries he's getting a touchdown.
when is that? When do you ever see that?
Yeah, you never see that in today's game, especially with it being spread offenses. It's kind of a breath of fresh air. They went into Georgia Southern too and won that game.
And Georgia Southern's decent this year. They're not
Yeah,
a bad team. I mean,
but-
one of my
yeah,
really one of my really good friends is a Georgia Southern alumni, and he was talking about Georgia Southern, and I watched a little bit of this game, and they were solid, not a bad team.
yeah. Boise State's always got a good program,
The,
especially when they got that USC transfer. I don't even think he won the job, but he's the backup.
Malachi
But
Nelson, yeah,
still,
he didn't even win
yeah.
the job. I mean,
But
most people think they're going to be the team to come out of the group of five for that final playoff spot, which I think is I'm okay with the group of five spot, but I mean with the additions of like Cincinnati, SMU, UCF going to their conferences, I mean there's got to be someone to come on up, and it might be the Broncos.
yeah, I think so
They're
too.
led by their run game.
We got the great dynamic duo out in Arizona. We got Tutoria McMillan with 300 receiving yards of 4 touchdowns, with his counterpart Noah Fafita dishing him the rock. I mean, that's just they signed the NIL deal with the plane this past week, and now they're just flying away, continuing their success from last year on offense.
Yeah, that was a big get to give them back, because obviously both Fafita and McMillan probably got massive NIL deals to go transfer, especially out to Washington with Jed Fish, their
Yeah,
former coach, who's now with the Huskies after Kalen DeBoer left to go to the University of Alabama, which is where we go. But no, they decided to stay, and I mean it looked pretty good. I mean the game was like went past midnight for us, but
yep.
I mean,
No longer the
McMillan's going
yeah
to be in
no,
the conversation. I mean, especially after that performance.
yeah, I agree.
I mean, what did
I
he
mean,
go? What was his official stat line? 300 receiving yards and 4 touchdowns.
yeah, I think he had like 10 catches too.
Yeah, they couldn't stop him.
So he's getting like 30 yards a catch. Then
30 yards a catch. That's
yeah,
insane.
little instead of Pac-12 after dark, it's now Big 12 after dark.
Which is a travesty, by the way. I mean,
Yeah, very travesty.
how often did you watch those Pac-12 after dark games?
I mean, pretty good bit. I mean, getting home after a game, going to a game, or just get home, just watching games all day, and you end the night about to go to sleep with the Pac-12 after dark. I mean, it really doesn't get better than that.
Yeah, honestly. And what's
Let's head
that?
in.
What's your final
I think our
spotlight?
final spotlight, we'll head over to Oxford, Mississippi, highlighting Jackson Dart, 445 total yards rushing and passing in the first half with 6 total touchdowns. I mean, it's kind of expected against Furman, but Ole Miss just running up the score in the first half. It's kind of
Do you know?
crazy.
Do you know the mascot for Furman? Just a little
The
quiz.
the Paladins.
The Paladins, one of the best names.
Yeah, that's a great mascot.
But I mean, Jackson Dart, I mean, if you go any of the Vegas odds, he was one of the top contenders for the Heisman, and especially with all the transfer receivers they got. They got
Yeah,
Trey Harris, they got Juice Wells from South Carolina, and a ton of teams like Oregon, for instance, who also got a ton of transfers, struggled with all that talent. I mean, that game was way closer than it should have been. Ohio State didn't look amazing in their game against the Zips, but Ole Miss, man, I mean, they almost put up 80 points. They probably could have put
Yeah,
up
they
80 points if they wanted to against the Paladins. And Jackson Dart looked as good as advertised as one of the best quarterbacks in the Southeastern Conference.
yeah. I mean, they have a pretty easy first part of their schedule until they head into Baton Rouge with LSU. We'll get into that game later, but
Yeah,
I
they got
think Ole Miss just has to keep just they got to get better on the line of scrimmage. I mean, they pitched a shutout with Pete Golding. I mean, that's kind of a shocker, but looks like their front seven is up to par with the likes of Alabama and Georgia and Ohio State.
I mean, as we both know, we'll see what Pete Golding can do, especially in that secondary. And with all the line of scrimmage count they got Walter Nolan, the top transfer of
Yeah,
the class. So I mean, maybe. I mean, they're one of those teams where it's like they went in, they probably saw this and went, "This is the year we're going to go all in. We want to make the playoff." Kiff, Kiffin, you don't know what he's going to do. I mean, last year he he looked at the Auburn job, didn't take it. I mean, or was that 2 years ago?
that was 2 years ago, but
Yeah, two
still,
years
I mean, the
ago.
point
But
still stands. This is kind of the make or break season for Ole Miss.
no,
I mean, they
I
have
mean
this is the highest their expectations are.
his job is safe at Ole Miss. I mean, he built that
Yep.
program back up after Freeze completely put it in put it down in the dumps.
Yeah. I
And
think now this their expectations are playoffs or bust. I mean, the fans' expectations are probably at its highest it's ever been,
yeah,
which is
I
kind of
mean,
funny to see.
really think about it. I mean, when you and I were growing up, Ole Miss was bad, like bottom of the SEC, like
Yeah,
not
it was like
very.
2016 to 2020. They were bottom four in the league, but before then they were like middle. They're like top 6 or 7 with when they had Bo Wallace and Chad Kelly running the offense for Hugh.
Yeah,
Before all the NCAA stuff happened.
but these two Ole Miss teams could be the best they've ever had, and with
Yeah,
a potential Heisman candidate, I mean, who knows? Who knows what
yeah, they're
can do?
very deep. They're probably one of the deepest offenses this year.
Yeah, yeah.
But let's set into our first segment of the day, a second segment of the day with we'll be previewing, we'll be recapping, and then recapping the games from this past weekend. Let's start out with the first game, our game, Alabama and Western Kentucky, with Alabama winning 63-0 on cruise control, it seemed like. And what were some of your thoughts, JB?
Obviously, it was Kalen DeBoer's first game, and you never know what's going to be like. I mean, were you at the game, Nicholas?
I was. It was. I mean, it seemed kind of weird at first. I mean,
I mean,
not really much warm up music, but I mean, the vibe still seemed the same.
I mean, my, I mean, what did you think of just them walking out? I mean, there was like, just little changes. Like, I won't
Yeah,
go
there's not
too
much changing.
detail on this, but Milrow having this, the captains having a C on their patch, that's a little
Yeah,
weird.
that's pretty
Kalen
cool.
DeBoer, Kalen DeBoer being the head coach of the University of Alabama. I mean, I mean, obviously Saban was getting up there in age, but it's still surreal. But going into the game, I thought the team looked very good. The thing that really I was worried about was not the offense. I mean, Kalen DeBoer's offense, you know what that's gonna do well. I mean, but it was the defense. I had no idea what that was gonna be like with Kane Womack coming over. They looked good. I mean, obviously there's a ton of change, especially in the defensive back room where they played like 19 guys. They were a ton of freshmen. Like Xavier, you saw Xavier Brown started. Jalen Mbakwe played both on the right side. And at first you could tell like it was a little jitters, but they pitched the shutout. And then how about Keon Sav? How about Keon Sav? What did you
Yeah,
think?
yeah. How about he had 2 picks on that? I mean, the second pick when he jumped the route off the tight end, it looked like in the middle of the field. I mean, that guy was wide open in the he got in the middle of the zone defense and he just jumped the route. Great instincts to get down and
Yeah,
almost pick six that.
he was watching TJ Finley just going, yeah, I know exactly where you're going.
Yeah,
I'm gonna pick it off.
that's what athletes do. That's why I mean I agree with some of those with all those thoughts on that because you had I mean that's what I was worried about was the defense and they were just swarming to the ball. It wasn't you weren't getting one-on-one tackles or one-on-one coverages like with guys trying to make a tackle in tough situations. You have the whole team going to the ball, which just creates havoc on the ball.
I mean, were there problems? Yes, but I mean, it's week one.
Yeah,
I mean, did Western Kentucky really do well on the short passes? Yes, but they didn't get that much off it. I mean, you saw everyone was getting swarming to that ball, which is what Kane Womack really wants, and you could tell like, are they young? Yes, but are they super talented? And this could be a special defense. But week one, I was thoroughly impressed. But now switching to the other side of the ball, the offense. What were some of your takeaways?
I think I think it was very explosive with Brian Williams getting his Randy Moss stat line with 2 touchdowns, 140 yards, and 2 catches, which is just absurd. But you know, Justice Haynes and Jam Miller both had good games
Yeah, they ran
on
for
the
like
rushing
200
attack.
yards. They had 600 yards of total offense and 200 yards. Milrow only threw the ball 9 times.
Yeah, that's really the only thing that I wish we could have saw was more like sustained drives, like 8 to 10 play drives, which hopefully we'll get some. I mean, I'm not going to complain at 2 plays with touchdowns, but I'd like to see how Nick Sheridan does under pressure with working a full drive instead of just the 2 play touchdowns, which you can't really complain with. But I mean, I just want to see how Milrow operates the offense in full shape.
My one little critique, and this might be just because it's week one, I don't know. Penalties were, I mean, they had a few penalties. I mean, right before Ryan Williams' first touchdown, which was that deep ball against the cover two zone, they had a holding call, which made it 3rd and 18.
Yeah, they had a ton of miss. It had some substitution errors
But that
playing
might
with
be
10 men
because,
some, but that's just week one. I mean, you'll get through it.
and it also could be because of two other things. One, Caden Proctor went out in warmups. Luckily, that's day to day on his shoulder, so that's not long. And two, the headsets. It might be the headsets. I mean,
Yeah, with the headsets going out in the first minutes, like first
you
seconds
don't
of the game.
you don't prepare for that,
No.
but again, week one, new coach and new pieces joined together. I thought the offense looked good. Like
Yeah, I thought it was a very balanced game and just
overall, I'd give
overall.
it a B plus, A minus
Yeah, I
performance.
agree with that. It's a good. Let's head into our next game. Is this the fall of? Do you think it's a fall of Dabo Swinney here and losing to Georgia by 31 points in Atlanta?
I don't think so. I thought it didn't look great. Clemson. Here's what I'm going to say about Clemson. They're not going to be. I don't think we'll ever see them be at the mountaintop like they were, unless they get another generational quarterback. Because they might. It,
Yeah,
but the things I was really worried about for Clemson came up. I thought their offense would look a little better. I thought they were going to cover it. It was like a 13.5 point spread. I
yeah. I
thought
thought
they
it
were
would be a
going to cover
lot,
it. And it looked good.
closer.
Yeah. Their defense
They
looked
had chances.
their defense looked good. Like maybe it was because Georgia was starting slow, but Clemson's defense played good. It's just their offense. They couldn't move the ball at all. And
Yeah,
it's not because of Georgia stopped the run. Phil Maffa, the Clemson running back, got some good carries. It's they couldn't throw the ball. They just
yeah.
missed.
Whenever they
When
needed
they
a
had,
first down, he just wouldn't get there.
it was just off. And when they had big plays like that in the first quarter, they had a hook route that beat them on a 3rd and 10. That was going to get them into the red zone. But then there's a holding. It was just one thing on top of the other. And then in the second half, Clemson's defense just gave out. And I mean, it is what it is. But you can't do that against Georgia. Georgia's the best team in the country. They're going to be one of, if not the best team in the country. And they're one of the best coach teams. And they have Heisman caliber quarterback, and they have really good running backs, and they have really good wide receivers in Arian Smith. But Clemson's never going to be back to what that was. But is this the fall of Clemson? No. And that's mostly because of the 12-team playoff and the conference they're in. I still think they're going to be really good in the ACC. I just don't know if they're going to be what they were, like in the
Yeah.
mid 2010s. I mean, what about you?
I mean, I just think Georgia's just a well-oiled machine. They'll just beat you down. They think Clemson probably thought they had him right where they want him, and then second half they come out firing the ball with Carson Beck, just going doing play action. It seemed like everything was working for him. Dominic Levick and company, and then I think Carson Beck is going to be up there for the Heisman. I mean, with how he played, I mean he played pretty solid. He didn't need to do too much. He just kept everything in front of him. There's going to be guys open. And I think Georgia, I mean, they had some injury. That's why the Phil Maffa had success running the balls because I think they lost two interior linemen to injury, I think, during the game or something. But I don't know. I don't know if I'm all the way back. I'm all the way back on Georgia. I think they're the best team in the country. I agree with you on that. But I'm not sure about Clemson. I think, especially with how Miami looked against Florida, we can get into that later. But I don't know. I don't think they are the ACC favorites. What do you think?
I don't think they're the favorites, but I mean, I think I'd be a fool if I didn't say they
Yeah,
should probably be in Charlotte, maybe in Charlotte at the end of the year, and a prime
yeah,
contender for a playoff spot. Maybe not the one seed, but maybe
yeah.
one of those other seeds. And
Their biggest game on the schedule will be that game again and down in Tallahassee. That will probably decide who's the second team in the
yeah,
ACC. It is early, but after watching Cam Ward play, I'm sold on Miami
do you want
being
to
all
head
the
to
way back.
you want to head that game next? You want to head down to the swamp
Yeah,
next?
let's head down to the swamp. Florida just getting drained out of the swamp, 41-17 to Miami. And Cam Ward. He looked insane, unreal with Mario Cristobal. I mean, 418 total yards with 3 passing touchdowns. He just continued what he did at Washington State. All he did was just air out the ball, get it to receivers. And I mean, he wasn't really the most popular quarterback because he was playing out west, and not all the eyes were on him
Yeah,
playing with Washington State. But I just think Florida undisciplined. They had too many flags. They would get off the field, and then you would see
a roughing
roughing the
passer.
passer. Yep, targeting. And then you had Graham Mertz going out of the game. At least you got to see DJ Lagway. I mean, he's their freshman, redshirt freshman, big time recruit. But I don't know. I mean, what do you think? What went wrong for Florida in that game?
I think it's a combination of two things. One, Miami was the best. I thought they were the best team all weekend. They were the most impressive team all weekend. So what? I'll tell you a little story. My family does picks. We pick against the spread. It's just a little game we play as a family. I thought Florida was going to cover because
Me too.
Miami Miami's going into the swamp. Florida's in year 3 with Napier, and usually in year 3 you see coaches their team, and then Graham Mertz was really good. But
Yeah,
then the game happened, and you're just watching and going, Miami looks more physical. They look more mature, and they're better coached. This is also year 3 for Mario, and a lot of people can say, "Oh, one man can't really change a program." Cam Ward changed that program. That
yeah.
program looks the best I've ever seen him. I mean,
I mean, this is probably like the best 1 year rental you'll ever have. We're a
I
quarterback.
mean, they had that blip in 2017 where they go where they go all the way to Charlotte, but that team wasn't good. This team is good. But then going back to
Yeah,
the Florida side, like you said, they couldn't take control of the swamp because the same problems came up for them as last year. Undisciplined penalties. They don't have the playmakers on the outside. And even when they do, it's just it's a
More penalties.
badly coached team. And I am dumbfounded seeing
Yeah,
that
and
because
especially with
and it's not even because Cam Ward doing Cam Ward things. He was throwing to wide open receivers. They were blowing
yeah,
coverages in the secondary. I thought we'd see a little bit more discipline, but no, there was nothing. And then when Florida did have momentum early in the game, when they did make Cam Ward turn the ball over, and when they got these stops, you heard a penalty. It was a penalty. It
yeah.
was just one thing on top of the other. It's just build up, build up, build up. Miami didn't play like that. They played like the more calm team. And right now, Miami looks good. Like I'm really impressed with Miami.
I think if we're buying stocks on team, we buy high on Miami, and then I mean I think it's just I think we'd set the line at 8.5 weeks before Scott Strickland, the athletic director of Florida, finally fires Billy Napier. I guess I would probably go under. I think there's with how they played in that game against Miami. There's I mean especially I think in week 3 I believe they play Texas A&M in the Swamp. That will probably be
I
the
think
biggest game.
I think they'll give them mid-season, to be honest. I think they'll win a game like a UCF or they'll beat someone they
I mean,
should.
they could beat Texas A&M, and he'll be
They'll beat someone
fine.
they shouldn't. They'll beat someone they shouldn't. But Florida needed that win more. If Miami lost the game like close in the Swamp, it's like, okay, Ward looked good. You have an AC schedule, which isn't that bad. But not only did Miami win, they blew them out. And now Florida deal with what they have to deal with. They have to deal with the most brutal back half I've ever seen. When you go Georgia, LSU, Ole Miss, Florida State, and not only that,
Texas,
you still have Texas, Texas A&M, UCF, who's not easy, Texas
no,
A&M. I mean, it's insane.
yeah, I think the Texas A&M game. If they lose that game, then I think he's going to be done like sooner rather than later.
Have you seen
This is the biggest game will be of his tenure. I mean, it was this past weekend. This game was the biggest because they could have gotten off to a good start. They could have because I mean they're playing Sanford this week. That'll be a win. But
have
I
you
mean,
have you seen have you seen Florida Twitter?
I saw
They're already making
Aaron Samuels.
fan fiction of Lane Kiffin with
Yeah, I did see that.
Lane Kiffin with DJ Liveway.
I think what's worse is how you already have how he's already going after fans in press conferences already, and then you have Dan Mullen, who was wrongfully. I mean, he was doing good there and got fired. That's probably one of the worst decisions that could have happened. But on to another story. I think we should head to. Speaking of Texas A&M, we should head to College Station, where in an absolute barn burner of a game, we could say Notre Dame pulls out the win. I mean, the upset win if we're going off what the odds makers were saying. But number 7 Notre Dame beats number 20 Texas A&M 23-13, and that's probably the biggest game of the season for Notre Dame. That under Marcus Freeman with Riley Leonard at quarterback, the Duke transfer, going against his old head coach Mike Elko. And I mean, the atmosphere at Kyle Field was insane per usual. And I mean, Notre Dame's defense really good. I mean, what were some of your key takeaways here?
How much did you watch of this game? Because I watched some of it. I mean, I was at Bryant Denny Stadium
Yeah,
for how much did
I,
you watch?
I watched the highlights of it yesterday, and really, seeing Connor Wiegman looked very subpar. He was not very good,
Yeah,
and man, I don't know what happened. He was pretty good last year before he hurt his elbow, was out for the season. But they just kind of get into a rhythm. It looked like it was just turnovers, and the Notre Dame was just running the ball well, getting first downs. They weren't really like turning the ball over. And then when it seems like when both teams got in the red zone, they weren't scoring. But then Notre Dame was taking advantage there late.
how how glad do you think Notre Dame fans are when with Marcus Freeman right now? I mean,
I
that
mean, I think they're ecstatic.
I mean, that defense, man. Holy crap. That's
And
gonna
look, Notre Dame has a soft schedule. I was looking at their schedule today. I mean, their hardest, I'd say their two hardest road games are USC, which has the last game of the season. They usually struggle there. I would think that might be a loss. We'll see though. We'll see without Notre Dame, and then they go to Georgia Tech, which I mean, Brent Key, he's got that team playing very well right now with the Yellow Jackets. They
Mhm.
do host Florida State. I mean, this will be Florida State's got to either win out. I mean, it is not a conference game for them, so it's not really affected them, but it could potentially affect their playoff games. We'll get to that later in the season. But do you think Notre Dame is pretty much a lock for the playoffs right now?
I wouldn't say that yet. I mean, that offense, even I mean Riley Leonard, the
I mean,
offense
if they
still
go
looks
10-2,
great.
they're going to be. If they go 10-2 with
They'll
that
probably be
schedule,
in the
they're going to be
playoff,
in the playoffs.
but right now it's the
Yeah, it's early.
this is a great win. This like I'm not saying anything against that. Going in the Kyle
Yeah,
Field
no.
and beating Texas A&M is a big deal. But do I think Notre Dame is a true national title contender? Not yet. I mean,
I think we
they,
can go
they'll
playoff
get better.
contender.
They'll get better on offense, but that's going to be their weakness. Their defense looks good, though. That's what really impressed me, and that's a Marcus Freeman team. They run the ball. They ran the ball decently. I
Yep.
mean, it was a line of scrimmage game, and Notre Dame won it.
Yeah, especially with Mike
Surprising
Elko being a defensive
with
guy.
all their freshmen offensive linemen, first year guys.
Yeah,
Uh,
Notre Dame always wins the trench battles. I mean, Texas A&M wanted to set the presence, but they're still rebuilding. I mean, I think I think. Do you think they'll go over 500? Texas A&M. They haven't had that in like 2 years.
yeah, I
It's kind of
absolutely.
funny.
Mike Elko's the right guy there. I definitely
Yeah,
think he's
that
building
was a
something there. Just give him time. I mean, yes, losing the Notre Dame at home in your first game sucks. Like that's not nothing to take.
especially being tied in the fourth quarter.
But and that offense still didn't have that creativity like I thought it would. It might have with Colin Klein as their offensive coordinator. But A&M, look, it's Notre Dame. They're a good team. They're a top 10 team. Just rebound and get better throughout the year. You're going to be fine. You got
Yeah,
the right guy. You got a guy that gets Texas A&M. You got a guy
and
that
how?
you have hope. A&M fans are really sad. Like every team would be. Like look like Florida
Yeah,
State's sad, but
I mean,
you
but
have
I think
hope.
that big game for Texas A&M is Week 3 against Florida, which is the same for both programs.
Huge. Huge.
The season decider for both games for both
That's
teams right
their
there.
biggest game of the year. Look, just brush it
Definitely
off
not.
Texas A&M because you got a big one in rivalry week. You got the big one in rivalry
Yeah,
week.
long
And
season ahead,
that's a
Aggie
little down
fans.
the line, but yeah, you'll be all right. You want to talk about our final game, the game last night?
Yeah, let's get there real quick. We'll have LSU losing its fourth straight opener since the 2019 since the 2020 COVID season, but they last won their opener in the 2019 Joe Burrow year, and they lost it to USC, who scored a touchdown late to win 20. Was it 27-20? I
Yeah,
believe so.
something like that.
27-20, if I remember.
Did you have this
And
game due to DirecTV? Did you have this game?
I found a stream. I had it on my ESPN app, my Watch
Yeah,
ESPN app.
I was
I
watching
have
on
ESPN
ESPN
Plus.
Plus. We just
Yeah, it is what it is. But I mean, that was a defensive game, which nobody thought. I
both
mean,
teams could make
USC's
open tackles.
defense,
USC and
yeah,
LSU can make open tackles. Who would have thought?
they were still giving up the big plays though. A ton of 30-yard gains for both teams. But I thought Miller Moss looked the part and Garrett Nussmeier looked the part. I think both offenses. I mean, there's nothing to be mad about for those fans offensively. But I think
For both teams,
LSU's executions in the red zone was a little, and they still had those stupid penalties where they get take it where they'd like celebration penalties, taking off your helmets. And Brian Kelly, he was enraged after the game. in the press
It's
conference.
the same thing
But what
that's
did you think
happened
of the
in the
game?
last two. It's the same thing that's happened in the last two openers. It's they can't close. I mean, it's not a bad problem. It's an easy fix problem. And LSU fans shouldn't be sad. I mean, yes, again, it's like, could you have won an opener? Yeah, but also it was a tight game, and your biggest issue from last year is so much more improved. The defensive back room is not just out there looking like statues. They actually can stop someone if they need to. And Garrett Nussmeier looks the part. Like they got players. Alabama transfer Aaron Anderson had a great game. They had a really good running back.
Kyron Lacey had an incredible game.
But the player of the game though was Miller Moss and Zachariah Branch.
Yep.
Zachariah Branch is going to be a he's going to go in the end. He's going to
You
be a
see at the end of the game where they squib kicked it just to kick it away from him. That's how explosive he was. I mean, he almost
yes. He
housed
almost
one of the kickoffs.
broke a touchdown earlier in the
Yeah.
game. But
How about
overall,
that one catch that the USC guy had where he one-handed and somehow had good enough concentration while going to the ground to hold on? That was an insane catch. Then he had another one to set up the red zone with targeting at the end, which I mean, there's another boneheaded play by the LSU safety going in for a targeting, but they don't have the clutch on defense when it matters.
earlier in the show, I said Miami was the biggest surprise of the weekend. That was a lie. The biggest surprise was obviously that this game was
It
both
was
teams
defensively,
were
yeah.
good. Like that
If
was
you
the
would have
big
told the both of
and
us,
we both agreed it was a great game. I mean, everyone thought it was going to be a great game. It was
yeah,
the best game of the weekend, I thought.
I
I
thought
don't think
everybody would have agreed on a 45 to
take the over.
42
I would bet
game.
the over at
Yeah,
Mandalay Bay or somewhere like that. Like
45-42. It was probably most people's score predictions, and it ended up being 40 points below that. It was then 27-20, but
how impressed were
that was
you?
a great game.
How impressed are you with USC? Like, do you think
I'm
do you think there were our expectations so low for USC that like
Yeah, I mean,
seeing
I don't
them
know what my
seeing them look
expectations were because they're in the Big Ten, but physically on the defensive line they look good, but offensive line they were Miller Moss was getting kind of beat up back there, so that's kind of something to look out
they don't
to.
have a run game. They don't have a run game.
They don't have a run. I mean, they've never really had. They have all the Mississippi State transfers at running back. Woody Marks being there.
And to wrap up this segment, the do I think USC is a good team? Yes, but do I think they're a true contender in the Big Ten? No. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's where I'm at. I think they're going
it's
to
a
finish
line of
top
scrimmage
4 in the
game.
Big Ten.
You're going to play some of the best line of scrimmage teams in this year. I mean, even teams like they're going to be mediocre. They're gonna have some players. I mean, you're going to play Michigan a little later in the year. They're going to have one of the best defenses in the league.
I think we can agree with real quick before we head to the next segment. I think real with the Big Ten, the tiers. I think it's Ohio State and Oregon. Even though Oregon struggled, I think that was just week 1 jitters. And then the second tier, Penn State, USC. Penn State, USC, definitely, because Penn State looked the part. Would you
USC
allow
is
it?
that tier two.
Michigan will probably be in that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
those
submitted
three
themselves to
teams.
that tier two.
Yeah, I mean, I could see maybe Nebraska sneaking up there. They look pretty solid. All right, let's head into our last segment of the show. We'll be previewing week 2. Let's start out with the second game of the Kalen DeBoer era with Alabama hosting USF for Saban Field, the inaugural first game at Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium. What are your thoughts on this game?
I
What do
mean,
you want to see?
Bama can't look worse than they did last year. I mean, I
Yeah.
mean, I have multiple friends at that game. I mean, just a, I mean, is I think USF's going to be a problem. I truly do. I don't love the -31 by Alabama because I think USF's going to give them problems because they're going to run the same offense like
Yeah.
Tennessee does because
Yeah.
it's
Alex Golesh.
Yeah, it's Alex Golish, and then they play a lot of no huddle like Ole Miss does. So I think they're not going to shut him out. I would be very surprised if they shut him out. This will be a great defense.
Yeah, I mean, I what I want to see from this game is look, I want to see an 8 to 10 play, just grind them down, drive with Justice Haynes, Jam Miller getting the ball, and then spreading the ball out, seeing the full Kalen DeBoer offense. I want to see
I'd like to
more. I
see
mean,
more of Jeremy Bernard, Kendrick
yeah,
Law, maybe Kobe
more
Prentice.
misdirection. I love the misdirection that we saw in week one with Jalen Milroe getting some quarterback runs on outside runs, and hopefully that continues. And I want to see how the defense looks because that tempo offense that you're talking about is a kind of a decent preview of what we're going to see against Tennessee later on in the season, but not. I mean, not as good skill position players as they have in Knoxville, but it will still be a good test. And with that young secondary that we have, especially with Xavier Brown, Damani Jackson, and company, I want to see how they all mesh together because you're going to need to be communicating, especially with all those vertical looks and high tempo offense you'll be
Yeah,
seeing.
I think USF could be a very strong contender for that group of five spot. So Alabama can look convincing in this game, and the crowd hopefully the crowd will get a little better because, I mean, maybe it'll be hopefully nicer for this game. I mean, there was like
Yeah,
because it rained, but but I think Alabama's going to look good. I think they're going to look more. I think penalties are going to go down. I think everything's just going to mesh together. But I do see us having some issues like in the first quarter. But I think as the game goes on, they'll kind of settle in. They'll run the ball. They'll get better at running the ball. And then, as you said before, I'd like to see like a long one or two long drives. Like Milrow could hit like slant, maybe a slant or a dig down the middle. Like
yeah.
that's one thing I'd like to look at.
And I think also what you want to see, I want to see better pass protection. That was another thing that what I mean with
Yeah,
losing Caden
that's
Proctor your first
that's a
game and
good
having to
point.
put
Now they're
Elijah
gonna have
Pritchett in
a whole
left
week of
tackle. I kind of want to
practice.
see, yeah, I want to see if Elijah Pritchett is going to stay at that left tackle position or if Caden Proctor is going to come back, given that he's week to week with that shoulder injury. But we'll have to see. I mean, let's head into the game of the week, in my opinion. The Michigan hosting Texas at the Big House. I mean,
I mean, game day is
Michigan
gonna be
coming
there.
off the
Game day is
national championship. Yeah,
gonna everyone's gonna be there.
and it's at noon, which kind of noon Eastern time and on Fox. So, I mean, I don't really like the time, but
Thank
it's
you.
going to be
Okay,
loud in that.
okay, thank
And
you. Every I There are so many people that like the noon kickoffs. I'm not a fan. Maybe it's because I was born SEC. I like the night games at the end, like my dessert at the end, the best game at the end.
yeah, I mean, especially I think with the week two, and this is the biggest game. I think you kind of have to make it at night.
I mean,
Like give us a Fox night game, like you had last year with USC. But like you kind of have to put this on prime time. I mean, 11 o'clock is prime. I mean, technically it's prime time for most big college football fans.
and
But I mean,
unlike week one, there's not much. I mean, there's some good games in this week two schedule, but nothing like
this is it. And I thought Michigan did not look good in that week one game against Fresno State. I mean, they were playing Alex Orji at quarterback with Drew Warren as I mean, they were kind of like flip flopping. It seemed like Drew Warren was doing a lot of the passing plays, and it seemed like I think Alex Orji only had like one or two pass attempts. I mean, he did have throw for a touchdown. It seemed like he was like the goal line package, which is kind of odd because it seemed like he was starting the whole season. But it'd just be interesting. I mean, Michigan, they still looked pretty good on defense from what I saw, but they were I don't know. I think Texas might go up there and silence the big house, but we'll see.
there are two ways I think Michigan wins this game. Actually, three ways. One, the big house has to be electric, like Ohio State level electric. Like the last two games they've played against Ohio State, the big house was electric. They're gonna have to be electric for this game. Second thing is that defense is gonna have to show up. Mason Graham, Will Johnson. Will Johnson's gonna have to lock
Yeah,
down probably Isaiah Bond. Do you think
he's
that?
gonna. This is gonna. I think the line of scrimmage of this game is gonna be the big deciding factor.
And I think Michigan actually has the advantage there. I don't because Texas, they don't have the line of scrimmage game. They don't have Sweat anymore. They don't
Yeah,
have
good point.
Byron Murphy. I think Michigan, and then the third thing is running the ball. they don't have a quarterback. They don't have a guy that back there that they're comfortable with. I think most people thought Orgy was going to win the job, but he never really took the job. And last night, they
Yeah, I just
last
want to
night,
see if they'll
dude,
have Drew Warren starting or not, or if they'll
I
try
would
to go for that
start.
two quarterback look. I'm not. You kind of can't really do that against a team like Texas.
I would really start Orgy because I think that's the way you win the game. Do you know what this
Yeah,
game reminds me of? Like, it reminds me of the Texas Bama game last year where they don't have
a lot of hype around it.
Michigan's like they're at home, they're holding a big game against Texas, and they don't have a guy there that they're really comfortable with. Texas, on the other hand, they're not as experienced as they were last year. But I
But they got
think,
that guy.
but they got number three. They got number three, Ewers, and I don't know. I mean, I think Texas is going to win this game, but I don't think it's going to be like steamroll. I think Michigan's going to play good on defense. I mean, there's nothing really there where it's like I can say, oh, Texas is going to go in there and destroy him. I think they're going to have
Yeah,
fits, but I do think Texas is the more balanced team, and turns out their defense might be pretty good. Texas defense might be pretty good.
yeah. I mean, they pitched a shutout against the Colorado State team, which they had a couple of good weapons coming back. But I think this game is going to come down to a 2 minute drive or just a well executed third and fourth quarter from the Texas offense. It's just and the Michigan defense is just going to be gassed because still having quarterback controversy is going to bite them in the butt because you're going to be able to sustain drives. I mean, I think the big key is Donovan Edwards. Didn't look like he had a big game against Fresno State, but I think this game will be very interesting, and you'll be able to. It's either going to be. I think it's going to be coming down to the wire, or Texas might just play the hammer on them and just score every drive or put
I
up
think Texas probably
tons of
ends.
points.
I think Texas probably ends this game by the mid fourth quarter. I mean, we'll do picks later.
Yeah,
I think both of us can. I think from our tone of voice, I think we both.
yeah. I think we're both leaning the same way.
Yeah, I think we both think Texas is gonna take care of Michigan.
So our next game, we'll head out to Charlotte, Tennessee, facing off against NC State. I believe it'll be in Bank America Stadium.
It will be in the home of the Panthers.
Yep. I I think I'm buying stock in Tennessee after what I saw in Nico, and then after watching NC State on Thursday, they did not look good with Graham McCall, the Coastal Carolina transfer. I mean, what do you think about this matchup?
This is the game of all the games in week two. This is the game I must feel confident in the spread. Tennessee, I think, is going to splatter them. I mean, NC. I mean, Nico looks. He's going to be good. Like, remember last year when everyone's kind of watching and went, man, Milton's kind of looked off. He doesn't look like the Hendon Hooker. Nico looks
Yep,
like Hendon Hooker, but he might be better than Hendon Hooker.
more mobile than Hendon Hooker.
But yeah, Tennessee, I I'm not a huge fan of Tennessee personally. I mean, I'm an Alabama fan at heart, but I can't deny they're gonna be a nightmare to deal with. And I
Yeah,
think
that third Saturday in October is going to be. Whew,
that night it's gonna be it's I think this game's gonna be a I think Tennessee's gonna beat them. I think I think by the mid third quarter the game will be like 21 points. I think Tennessee
yeah,
takes care of them. Unless NC State slows down Nico and gives him like disguise coverages. I mean, you can disguise. I mean, he's a
yeah.
freshman. I mean, I think
Maybe NC State was looking ahead and played terrible, whereas they weren't really thinking about Western Carolina. They were looking ahead to this matchup this week, but I guess we'll see. I mean, Tennessee looked insane offensively. I think their defense. I mean, maybe Grayson McCall can get this into a shootout,
he's the
but
more
I mean,
experienced quarterback.
Nico. That is true. He is more experienced, but Nico looked the part. He looked, I guess, worth that 8 million NIL deal that was rumored for him. But
Yeah,
they that high tempo offense is just tough to stop, especially if you give them that first down on the drive. If you can stop them and give them get them in second and third down, then you're slowing down the tempo a little bit. Then you can get off the field and have chances to win. But if they get that first down in that drive, they go into NASCAR mode, and that Tennessee offense is tough to stop when they get moving quick.
Real quick before we move on to the next game, you got Tennessee?
I think we're both really involved in this one. I'm going to pick Tennessee on that one.
I think next game we should head over to the Big Ten. I think we should head over to Lincoln, back over to Lincoln.
Yeah, is Nebraska back? What the folks are saying.
I'm Nebraska's in the same boat as Miami. I'll believe it when I see it. They looked good. I mean, Dylan Raiola. I mean, he's talented. I mean, there's a reason he's the number one quarterback, and he looked solid. But I don't think this game's going to be the cementer for Nebraska. I think for most people it will be, but me personally, I mean Colorado.
Yeah,
Colorado's defense. I mean, it's bad.
it's just kind of like last year's game when Colorado went 2-0 after beating TCU and Nebraska, and everybody was like, "Colorado's all the way back. They're gonna
I
go,
never believed him, but like
and they're gonna
it's
go like 9-3 or
casual.
something." And then they just their bus, all the wheels fell off the bus, and they didn't make a bowl game.
I thought North
But
Dakota State was going to beat him.
yeah, it looked like it in the first half. They were scoring on every possession, and Colorado had no answer. And then, I mean, Colorado's offense still looks electric. I still really like Shadur. I think he's a
They
top
got
two
they
or
got
three
two
quarterback.
they got two receivers, two legit receivers. They got
Yeah,
Horn, and then they got the best player in the nation. In my opinion,
yeah.
the best player in the nation.
I mean, he played every snap, but two, and still was making every play. I mean, he's probably a top five pick in the draft whenever his draft year is.
Real
I
quick
think,
question:
believe it's this year.
what time is this game? Do you know?
We can
Because they,
check real quick.
because
I think it
because
might
I
be a
think
night game.
because Fox has should have both these games, and
Oh yeah, this game is on ABC at 6:30. It's a primetime game.
that's a good primetime game. You know what?
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. Obviously, I would want
Yep,
Texas.
6:30 on. It's actually on NBC, not ABC.
I mean, that's
But
fine.
it
It's like
it I mean that's still prime time.
part of
I
the Billy
mean
Dart
prime
Bill.
time for Coach Prime. But I mean this would be kind of an interesting game. I guess we'll kind of
Nebraska will
see.
be
I think the big
back.
key is Nebraska's defense. It's going to be another sellout, which Nebraska has every single home game. Because the Colorado, they need to look a lot better. Warren Sapp needs to get those boys fired up
That's not the big
playing
issue
for
for
this
me.
game.
The big issue for me is going to be Nebraska defensive line versus Colorado's offensive line because North Dakota State
Yeah,
got pressure on Shooter a lot. Does it look better than it did last year? Yes, but like last year, it was like,
awful.
oh, I can walk right in. I can walk right in and get
Yeah,
a free hit on Shooter. This year,
that'll be the big question mark
not
there again.
much.
No, not at all. I do. I think it's going to be a shootout. I think this is
Oh
what's
yeah.
going to be what everybody thought LSU and USC was going to be. This is going to be the game where
The
offense,
only
offense,
way,
offense.
the only way I see Colorado win this game is because Shooter. Shooter is going to be more experienced. It's the same thing with Tennessee. Freshman quarterback, they'll I mean, it's
Yep.
part of human nature. They're not going to be as comfortable. If the, I don't think Colorado has the guys to do it. And I think it'll come later in the year for Nebraska, but I can see if Rayola starts slow, it could be a bad day for Nebraska. But
Yeah, I
personally,
agree. I agree with that.
I don't think so because I think Nebraska is the better team, and I think Matt Rule is going to put
Put on
Rayola
a show.
in a better position.
And I think that crowd is going to be a big difference maker.
Oh yeah,
Just
I mean, we haven't seen Nebraska be good in a while, and I've heard from like my parents that Memorial Stadium is one of the toughest places to play. I'm like, okay, sure, maybe when
yeah,
Nebraska.
I think it definitely is one of the tougher places to play in America. But I do. This is kind of the game because Nebraska, I believe they need to make a bowl game. They need to at least go seven
I
and
think they're
five,
going to
eight
make
and
a bowl
four.
game.
I think they need to go 8-4, 7-5. I haven't really looked deep into the schedule, but if you have the number one quarterback and if he's looking up the par with what that star next to his name we're at, then he can carry. He can win you 8 ball games.
I mean, have you really looked at their schedule? If they get through this game, Colorado. I could easily see them go be undefeated by the time they play Ohio State in
They play out.
October.
Is that game in Nebraska against Ohio State, or is that in? I think that's in Columbus. If I had
I'm
to
pretty sure it's
remember.
in Columbus, but even that, like Nebraska could be have a special season this year just
Yep.
to get them back into relevance. But what's your score prediction for this one?
Uh,
Or pick?
I'm gonna pick Nebraska. I lean Nebraska. I think it's gonna be like a 38-28 kind of game, or 38-31. I think they're gonna pull away late. Because again, Shadur, I mean, no matter if he has offensive lineman or not, that man can ball out.
Yeah. I've got Nebraska too, but
You think he'll be a little bit more?
I think Nebraska's gonna pull. I think Colorado's gonna be leading in the fourth. I
Why you
think
think it'll be a comeback game? Yeah,
I think Rayola's gonna have a drive in the middle of the fourth quarter to
take the lead.
put him up, maybe kick a field goal to put him up. Colorado has a chance to go down, but I think Nebraska's defense just tightens up, and then
I think
yeah,
it's
I think
yeah,
Nebraska wins, but I think Colorado's gonna. There's gonna be points where it's like it looks like Colorado's gonna win.
yeah. I agree. Let's head into some quick picks. We got Arkansas with Sam Pittman. I mean, he's on the hot seat. This could be a
I can't
program
wait for this
changer.
game, by the way. I
This
can't
would be
wait.
a very good game against Alan Bowman, 6-year quarterback at Oklahoma State and Stillwater. Who you got for this game?
Um, you know what? I in our little preview before the game, I had Oklahoma State because I thought Ollie Gore in that running back room, and maybe they still win it, but I'm gonna be fun here. I think let's think Bobby Petrino and the Arkansas Razorbacks. They looked good. I mean,
Yeah, they did look good.
they their quarterback. I don't know the exact name yet, but he looked good. Arkansas might. I could see Arkansas surprise Oklahoma State here.
Yep,
We'll pick.
Talon Green, the Boise State transfer, running
We'll
the show.
pick.
I mean, we'll pick for JD. I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna ride with 6-year quarterback Alan Bowman. And
And
they,
the best running
if I
back in
remember
college
correctly, they
football.
brought back their whole offense, their whole defense, pretty much all of their production. This is a team that could be the team to come out of the Big 12 to represent the Big
Would
12.
not be surprised.
Yeah, he did. Gundy does it every single year, gets doubted, and still somehow makes the Big 12 championship when nobody expects it. All right. You got Arkansas, I got Oklahoma State for this game. Let's head down to the Plains. We got Auburn facing Cal. I mean, that game was an absolute barn burner last year, Pac-12 After Dark, RIP. But Auburn with a 73-0 win or 73-3 win over Alabama A&M this past weekend with Cam Coleman, the big time receiver, getting that touchdown. How do you getting a touchdown catch? What do you think about this game, JD?
I'll keep this one short and sweet. I think the Auburn Tigers win. These early few games for Auburn will be give them hype, and then the SEC schedule starts. I mean, Hugh Freeze is building some. They're recruiting really
They're
good.
recruiting very well. Yep.
Both teams in the state of Alabama are recruiting well, which is something you haven't really said in a few years, which is good for the state of Alabama. I mean, not really for Georgia and Alabama fans, but I mean Auburn they're building. I mean, Freeze is a good coach. I think they'll win this game, but I don't think Auburn's a great team. But I do think they're better than Cal.
Yeah, I
And you
think
will never make me
Cal.
save their catchphrase. You will never hear me say their catchphrase.
Yeah,
But
I think we can both agree on this one. Auburn. I just want to see how Peyton Thorne looks against a competent team. I mean, Alabama A&M, we weren't getting really much, but Cal ACC opponent.
still weird.
I want to see. It's still weird, but we'll see how that goes. I mean, we both got
Cam
Auburn.
Coleman, Cam Coleman, I'll give Auburn credit. Cam Coleman's a freak nature.
Yeah, he looks the part. They got a
I
way
really
better
wanted Alabama to
receiver
get him.
room. Peyton Thorne's got a way better receiver room to work with. It looks like their defense and their offensive line looks a little better. And I think Auburn could. I think they might surprise some teams. I mean, the schedule was pretty favorable. They host the Oklahoma. They host Texas A&M. They host a lot of their tougher games at home. Besides Alabama, I'm pretty sure they go to Georgia as well.
Yep, they go to
So yeah, those are two tough games right there. I mean, but we both got Auburn here. Let's move in to another game. We got Pitt, home of Eli Holstein, former Alabama quarterback, and he looked good. Heading into Cincinnati to face off against the Bearcats. What do you think about this game?
kind of a toss up for me. I mean, it's an ACC versus Big 12, which is another weird one. But I mean, I want Eli Holstein to do well, but I think home field advantage, and I think Cincinnati gets the win.
Yeah, Cincinnati's still with the new coach, the second year with their new coach without Luke Fickle. I don't know too much about Cincinnati. So I'm back with Eli Holstein here, but I think Cincinnati's got a freshman quarterback or something. They don't have Emory Jones anymore, the Florida Gator, and they looked kind of bad last year. I mean, I think it's a new year for them, new year for the Bearcats. I'm interested to see this game. I'll definitely be watching this game, but I'm leaning Pitt for this game to get
Makes
the road
sense.
win. I think this is a game that'll actually be underrated, in my opinion. I think it'd be Georgia Tech, be 2-0 Georgia Tech heading into the Carrier Dome to face off against Syracuse with Kyle McCord running the show and Fran Brown's first year, the former Georgia assistant coach. What do you think about this game?
And both these teams could be surprise teams in the ACC. I mean, Syracuse isn't bad. Kyle McCord,
No,
he's experienced. Fran Brown, but I mean, I really think Fran Brown's going to be really good there, but not this game. I got the Yellow Jackets. I believe in the run game. I believe in Haynes King. I believe in Christian Leary. I believe in Brent Key, the coach. They've had more experience. Give me Georgia Tech. Give me the Yellow Jackets.
yeah, Syracuse defense didn't really look as good in that week one game, but I'm a back the home team. I'm gonna back the Carrier Dome effect.
All
I'm gonna
right.
take the orange here. I'm gonna take Syracuse and Kyle McCord. Kyle McCord? I was looking at his numbers. He had a big day in his first game with the new team,
Did
and
you see
I mean,
Fran
the
Brown?
Fran Brown. Yeah, yeah. He said he wanted to give a bottle of champagne out to Columbus to Ryan Day. That's gonna be pretty funny. But Georgia Tech, I would not be shocked if they win this game at all because Brent Key is a fantastic coach. He is building something very well down in Atlanta. But I
It's
just
a
want to
toss-up game for me. It's a toss-up.
Yeah, I agree. It's a toss up. It's really just a coin toss game right here. I would not be shocked if either team won this game, but I'm gonna pick Syracuse. This game. Let's head into another SEC game here. The first conference game for the two teams in the conference. We'll have the South Carolina Gamecocks, led by Lenore Sellers, heading into Kentucky with Georgia transfer quarterback Brock Vandergriff. Well, who are you thinking in this game?
Give me the home team. I've got the Kentucky Wildcats, led by Mark Stoops and Brock Vandegrift. South Carolina did not look great against Old Dominion. They did not.
Yes, yeah. I saw
Um,
they only won by 2 points in that game.
which is a little
They,
weird, but I mean, Shane Beamer, that's another guy that could be on the hot seat with another bad year. I mean, besides the Tennessee and Clemson games of 2 years ago, I mean, there's not much in South Carolina. But Kentucky, I believe in Mark Stoops. He's one of the best coaches in the SEC. Probably the most underrated coach in the SEC. I mean, Kentucky's a 8-win team, which is shocking. Before Stoops was there, they were terrible.
Yeah,
I mean, in short, give me the Kentucky Wildcats.
yeah, I'm agree with you on that one. Go Big Blue. And
Go Big
look,
Blue.
Kentucky, I don't even think they finished out that game on Saturday because of rain. I mean, they would seem like they were delayed until like after midnight. Then they called the
Yeah,
game up 31-0. I believe it was in the third or fourth quarter, one of the two. But
something
they
like
look
that.
good. They got Dane Keys still at receiver. I mean, they got some guys at receiver. They got a good coach.
There are a
I mean, I
ton of
agree with you on that. He is one of the most underrated coach in the conference. Okay, South Carolina with Nick Harbor and some other playmakers. But the only thing I feel bad for Shane Beamer, he's gonna put in a bad spot because all their good players that whatever they get, they just go straight to the portal and go elsewhere, like to Ole Miss, Florida State, like the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But they do have Rocket Sanders from Arkansas, I'm pretty sure, as running back for South Carolina, which is gonna
It's good.
see. So this game is the 2:30 game on ABC. So we'll see about this game, but I'm gonna go Kentucky. Their last game we're gonna be selecting is Mississippi State heading into Arizona State. I mean Mississippi State with the big win with new head coach
Jeff Levy.
Jeff Lebby. Yep, forgot his name. Heading into Arizona State with Kenny Dillingham in his second season. And I'm gonna have to take the Sun Devils on this one just because of what I saw. I watched some of their game on Saturday night, and Sam Levitt was their quarterback. He looked pretty solid. They had a good defense. They were playing against Wyoming, but Wyoming was they had it projected to be a close game, and it was a blowout, surprisingly.
Yeah.
But I just think Webby first year, we'll see with new quarterback Blake Shapen from Baylor. They got a lot of new pieces. I think it's just rebuilding year. So I mean, nothing really. You just see a good offense from Mississippi State the whole season. What do you think about this game?
I've got Mississippi State. I think Levy's offense is gonna take over. I think Levy's offense is gonna. I mean, Arizona State did look really good. That's no debate, but I think Blake Shapen, I think Levy, I think their offense. I believe in the high-powered offense. And a little bit, my sister probably is gonna go there, so that might put into that. So Hail State.
And these two programs, I mean, they're in new conference. I mean, new conference for Arizona State in the Big 12. This could kind of be a big statement, early statement wins for both these schools in their new
Good win for both
programs with
schools.
new coaches. Definitely for Jeff Lebby in his second game, if he goes into Tempe and wins this game at in the Big 12 after dark. Still kind of funny to say.
Yeah.
This is actually kind of an underrated game, not gonna lie, that I really want to have my eyes on after the Alabama game
I
to
mean, we picked this game
watch.
out of all the games left. I mean, it's one of those
Yep,
games like the true addicts like you and me will watch.
that's right. The true sickos.
True
But
sickos.
give me the Sun Devils right here. ASU, give me the Sun Devils.
Hail
And you got
State.
Hail State. Folks, looks like that'll wrap up episode one, the inaugural episode of the Fourth and a Mile podcast. I'm Nicholas Elliott alongside my co-host JD Zasa, and we'll be back next week for our
Actually,
college
no, we'll leave
football
it.
episode. And we'll actually be back for episode two of the podcast on Wednesday or Thursday, whenever we get it out, for the NFL preview of week one. And we'll be doing college football and NFL all year long. So be on the lookout for the episodes, more to come. Thank you so much for watching.